This is what set me off this morning. This is what put me in a bad mood. Again, I don't consider myself to be a radio guy. I consider myself to be pretty much just like everybody who's listening to me right now. I'm into this stuff. I've got things I believe in. And I, like all of you, I come into this studio every day and I got things I want to get off my chest. I'll never be a professional radio guy. The only difference between me and almost all of you is I happen to serve in the United States Congress for a short period of time. And yeah, I did run for president. Other than that, I'm just like you. But I like radio. I find radio to be so intimate. I find it to be a conversation. I don't know how anybody can do radio without being honest, though. I really don't. It bothers me. I've been in conservative talk radio for 5 to 6 years. I worked for a company prior to this that after Donald Trump won, they told all of their radio hosts, you got to be pro-Trump. They told us all, you got to be pro-Trump. Line up. Trump's our president. When you go on the radio every day, I want you saying good things about Trump. I said, huh? Excuse me, huh? I can't do that. I have a radio show. I have a microphone. The only thing I've promised my listeners is I'm going to, every word I put through this microphone is something I believe in. It's what I believe. I can only speak my truth. If I think Trump did something good, I'll say it. If I think Trump did something bad, I'll say it. If I think Trump lied, I'll say it. I can only speak my truth. But I worked for a company that said, nope, you got to say only good stuff about Trump. And damn near everybody else I worked with, they all lined up and they said, yes, sir, we'll do it. Yep. All these other radio hosts. Yep. Sign me up. I want to keep my show. Yep, I'm on Team Trump. I will only say good things about Donald Trump. I couldn't do that, and I would never do that. And by the way, that's most everybody in talk radio now. Rush Limbaugh lies to you, his listeners, all the time. Sean Hannity lies to his listeners all the time. Hugh Hewitt lies. Mark Levin lies. Dennis Prager. They all do. They all do. They do what they have to do, right, to line up to keep their show, to keep their ratings. But enough of that. So I'm listening to the radio this morning. I was in the car with my wife, driving her to a medical procedure. She's fine. All is good. But as we're in the car driving, I heard a talk radio host on my old station, in fact, in Chicago. She had an infectious disease expert on the line. She did. This morning talk show host on my old station in Chicago. So she's got a doctor on the line, an infectious disease expert. And she asks him a question. So, doctor, and I forget the doctor's name, what did you think about those CDC numbers that came out a couple weeks ago? Centers for Disease Control. What did you think about those CDC numbers that came out 2 weeks ago, doctor, that proved only 6% of the 180 or 90,000 who've died from COVID have really died from COVID? So only about 9,000 people have actually died from COVID because of those CDC numbers. What'd you think of that, right? Like only 6% of the 180 at the time, this was 2 weeks ago, only 6% of the 180,000. So only 8,500 people actually have died from COVID. Doctor, what'd you think about that? Now, to cut to the end of the story, the infectious disease expert set her straight. I told her the truth. Told her what those CDC numbers meant. And I'll get to that in a second. But I'm thinking to myself, she's a talk radio host on a conservative talk radio station in Chicago. She's on my old station. And she's peddling an ugly, dangerous lie. And I think she knows it. Oh, Lord, I hope she knows it. But what really got me down and what really put me in a bad mood, and I've been in that bad mood all day, is every one of her listeners, almost all Trump supporters, every one of the Trump supporters listening to her believes that lie. After those CDC numbers came out, my God, it's all Fox News talked about. Even Trump, the conspiracy theorist in the White House, he said the same thing. Wow, only 8,000 people have died from COVID. To cut to the chase, the truth is, if you want to know the truth is those CDC numbers, and they had to come out and explain themselves because, they're naive politically at the CDC, and they didn't realize that Donald Trump and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson and Rush Limbaugh and this female talk show host on this Chicago station, that they're all going to lie about it to their listeners so that their listeners will believe the big new conspiracy that only 8,000 Americans have died of COVID. So the CDC and Dr. Fauci and a bunch of other people had to come out in the days following and say, no, here's what it means. Remember, this was 2 weeks ago. I think at the time, 180,000 Americans had died of COVID back then. Dr. Fauci said, the CDC said, no, the numbers mean that all of them died of COVID. All 181 or 2,000 people, COVID killed them all. Only 6% of those who were killed by COVID had no other pre-existing conditions. 94% of them had something else going on, like a bad ticker, bad lungs, diabetes, right? Some other condition. And that's consistent with the data. The people who are most vulnerable to being killed by COVID have other conditions. But the truth is, all of them were killed by COVID. 6% of all of them had no other conditions. My point is this. Here's another talk radio host this morning putting out a lie, putting out a conspiracy. And damn near every Trump supporter now believes it. I know, because I hear from them all the time. 30 to 40, maybe close to 40% of the country now believes that only like 8,000 or 9,000 people have died of COVID. That's so freaking sad that they believe that. I cannot convey to you sufficiently my profound sadness. I come from the conservative media world. I come from the Fox News world. I come from conservative talk radio. Donald Trump supporters were my supporters. They sent me to Congress. Donald Trump supporters are the people who've listened to me on the radio for the last 5 to 6 years. I come from that world. It is profoundly sad to me that, like members of a cult, they're being lied to, they're being conned, they're being fooled, not just by the president, but by everybody they turn to for their news. Rush and Hannity and all the rest lying to them and manipulating them. It makes me so profoundly sad. And it makes me so profoundly sad that so many of them believe the crap, the lies that they hear. I want to tell the rest of the country, the rest of the 65%, the 60 to 65% of the country that does not belong to that cult, this is a bad, scary, dangerous thing. I mean, the fact that we've got 35 to 40% of the country that right now believes something like 8,000 to 9,000 people, that's all, have died of COVID. They believe that. When the CDC put those numbers out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I posted something on Facebook and I said just what I told you on the radio 5 minutes ago. Here's the truth. Here's what the CDC said. Here's what those numbers mean. And I mean to tell you, I've got like 1.1 million followers on Facebook. The vast majority of them are all Trump supporters. No surprise. When I posted that what Trump said and Hannity and all these other people, Laura Ingraham, about these CDC numbers, they're all a lie. Here's the truth. Damn near all of them responded to me and said, no, Joe, you're lying. Only 6,000 or only 8,000 Americans have died of COVID. Only 6% have died of COVID. That's the truth, Joe. They all believe it. They all believe a conspiracy. They all believe a lie. 35 to 40% of this country. I guess what I'm trying to argue, the 60 to 65% of the rest of us need to be concerned about that. I don't know how we exist or survive when that big a chunk of the country is being fed lies on a daily basis and they're believing those lies on a daily basis.